Hello there, great person, and welcome back to Let's Dive into Warhammer 40k. So you voted we are going to watch what's the best Warhammer 40k faction army to start with by Bricky, and I think it's the last Bricky video there is. So kind of sad because I kind of like what he does, though I like the other creators as well. And yeah, Last Church will be, as I said, when I've got some more energy to really focus on it. And also Pilgrimage to Terra will be up down the line, probably next week. Yes, I don't know if I will do this in one sitting. I might split it up into two because there is a lot to cover and I want to take my time with this one because I have no idea about the figures. So I think this is about the figures, right? So yeah, anyway, if you enjoyed the video I am reacting to, yeah, go to the description, watch it, and like the original, of course, as well. And if you like this reaction, consider liking, subscribing, helps me out a bit. And let's just go into it and have some fun with the factions. And I will probably learn some stuff. I can't wait to figure out what this actually is, this figure game. So let's go. Hi, Bricky. So Bricky has the StarCraft Terran theme in the background, which is a cool theme. Let's see what he will tell us about playing the game and have some fun. Oh yeah, and you lost the game.
Report on my prior Warhammer video has been, to put it lightly, absolutely outstanding. I've not had a video perform that well in maybe 3 to 4 years, and it's also a breath of fresh air to be able to make a video on something on a whim, on Warhammer, a, while very popular game, not a game that I ever really made videos on, and to have it perform as well as it does. You know, really? YouTube and the YouTube world doesn't like change very much, so it is incredibly heartwarming. But with that, it also came with a question that was always being asked to me ever since making that video. Hey Bricky, what army should I play? So for
what army should I play? I am wondering the same thing still. I've got some ideas of what factions I might want to play, but we will see down the line. I actually have someone told me that there are new Tyranids coming with the 10th edition. I will not play Space Marines, so because yes, I like them, but I think there are more intriguing things. So let's see how it plays out. Perhaps I will see some cool Space Marine stuff where I say, they play pretty interestingly, and that's fun. So let's see what they do. But yeah, let's see what he will tell me.
For this, my next major Warhammer video, I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to go over all the different kinds of armies, just like we went with the main video, except instead of lore, we're going to be going through the different various ways of collecting the army, as in not only price-wise, but how many models you're going to need.
Look, I'm sorry, but yeah, look at this. This Necron. What is this? Is this one of the rage ones with the blood rage? Looks a bit like it because of the blades here. I don't know, but look at the detail on this one. Like, it's like so well painted. I'm sure there will be a lot of cool paintings, so I'm sorry if I will pause the video sometimes to just marvel at what they did with the figures, but yeah, pretty cool stuff. Like this probably took ages.
How new or old the model sculpts are,
so
and we're going to be going over the play styles of each army respectively. Yeah. Are they melee? Are they shooting? Are they a little bit of both? Elite armies with only 20 models on the battlefield, or horde armies with 120 models on the battlefield? Yeah. We're going to be discussing all of those, what each army is about, and give you at least a decent run through of every single faction to allow you to make the conscious and intelligent choice on which army you want to play if you want to get into the tabletop of Warhammer 40,000. But
that's pretty cool, and yeah, I notice a lot of Necro in the background. Like I like the green, the neon green. It's a very cool color.
First, before we start, I need to show you something. So I own an absolute boatload of wall art all across my house. I've received from cons.
Oh, okay. Okay, he's doing some advertising stuff. Great. There's a lot of advertising. I think it is up to here. So yeah, you can get wallpapers here. If you want wallpapers, get them here.
It is an absolute gorgeous piece. It is just as nice looking in real life as I expected. Now it come to my surprise that after I order 3 separate disc plates to go along with the sponsorship, I immediately receive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of death in
He's
all their
still going.
those experiences with landlords
Okay.
during this video.
Great.
To it. First things first,
Okay.
there's a thing called
Okay.
Forge World. Forge World is actually a lore thing with the Adeptus Mechanicus. However, what it is actually a partner to Games Workshop. Forge World makes these kind of custom minis that aren't in the codexes specifically. However, you can use them and field them in your games. They're just generally expensive, kind of a little bit weirder. They're a little bit more bizarre, and it's
Why?
like fan-made creations and such. But Forge World is like a
Wow.
side company of Games Workshop that makes 40K. I might mention
Wow, the night shroud. I like the night sky size. You know, I can't pronounce that word, but technology is so cool. So do they paint them for you as well or not?
them a few times. I wanted to go ahead and tell you about that. They're not used a ton,
Ooh,
but
there's
they are something
Centauro.
you can use. Next, I want to tell you about hitting numbers. So if I ever say something like, oh, this army hits on 3s or 4s or 5s, what I'm saying is if they hit on 3s, that means if you roll a d6,
Yeah.
you throw it out there, if you get a
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, or 6, anything 3 or higher, then you hit your
okay.
shot. You've landed onto your target. If
Okay, so it's basically upwards the number where you will count as having hit someone. Is it better to hit with a 6 than a 3? Or he will probably explain it, but like, would it be like 6 is 6 times damage, 3 is 3 times damage, and 2 is 2 times damage to yourself? Or probably not that complicated. It's probably just hitting. Like
I say they hit on 4s, it's 4 and up, 5s, 5 and up, etc. And finally, we have things called stratagems. I'm going to mention those a few times. Stratagems are like special abilities you can use after having a pool of command points that you
Okay, wait. So we have a pool of command points and we have a stratagem, Spiteful Demise. Use the stratagem when a Chaos Knights model from your army is destroyed. For making the roll to see if it explodes. On a 4+, it explodes. If it is a Knight Tyrant, it explodes. If at least one result is a 4+. If both results are 4+, then units within 3d6 inch, I don't know if that's inch, it's just two weird things, are affected. So it can AoE bomb. So it's like an ability. I like that.
get
That's
for
cool.
building your
That's very
army,
cool.
and you can kind of dole those out, these special abilities,
Very
stratagems,
cool.
as you wish. You ever played Command and Conquer, Red Alert 3, or perhaps Kane's Wrath?
Oh my god, look at that. Yeah, Kane's Wrath. Kane's Wrath, that game, and Tiberium Wars. I love Tiberium Wars. So cool. So, I think Tiberium Wars is my favorite RTS game of all time. Next to Age of Mythology and Age of Empires, of course, but those were the days, man. That was when I really got into computer games, and so cool. Like, I remember the Orca Strike, and wanted to have this sensor array and whatever, and the drop pods. So cool. Was a great
personal
game.
favorite was always Kane's Wrath. You know those little abilities on the side
Yeah.
of the map? Take
Iron
those.
Cannon.
Let's start off with the
Iron Cannon charged. I don't know if they said that, but it was the woman who said the stuff in GDI.
#1 best army you should collect for a new player, Space Marines. Before we get into tactics, before we get into how they play, I want to remind you all of the most important rule, the golden rule of collecting Warhammer. You will always have a better time with the army whose lore you like and design you prefer. Always buy the army you think are the coolest. If
Yeah, that's something. That's my reasoning as well. Like, I will play the ones I think are most intriguing, most cool, where I can think most about, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. You know, because if it's just like, yeah, it should look cool as well. But I don't know.
If you like undead Egyptian space robots that have enslaved gods as weapons, buy the damn Necrons. I don't care if Necrons are S tier or F tier, buy the damn Necrons,
Yeah,
okay?
or
If
stupid
you
tiers.
love Viking aesthetic and you love Space Marines, get the damn Space Wolves. I don't care
Yeah,
if they're
Space
S
Wolf.
tier or F tier. Get
poor
the
doggo.
army that you love the lore and the design of first. Nothing sucks more than playing a meta army that some people might not even want to play you against because you're going super power gamer and having to paint and create an army that you don't like.
Do you know those guys who are? I'm sometimes a bit like that, like, but I'm worse than so. Okay, little tangent. So you know those guys who are like, hey, you know, what's the best thing you can do? Okay, and I will analyze it. Okay, there you make 1 more damage on average, and so you have to do this, and you know, all these analyzing stuff. Like every time I get a new computer game, I like look up the strategies, the tactics, and you know what's worse than like being someone like that? It's someone like that who then can't really play the game. Like I suck at that. Like I read up on it and I like just go down the best S tier, God tier route, and it's mostly only like not a big difference. Like there are games where it's a big difference between S and A tier, but there's a lot of times where S and A tier are pretty similar, pretty situational. Like take Dead by Daylight. Like Nurse is S tier, but yeah, okay. But I wouldn't play Nurse because I suck at that. But it's S tier. Like everyone says S tier, okay, so then I would normally be like, yeah, play it. Don't know if that makes sense. So yeah, I will not do that here. I will not care about meta because meta always changes, and I guess here it changes as well. I don't know. Is this a game where the meta is sometimes breaking the game? Like sometimes the meta can really go off the rails in several occasions I've had where meta has just destroyed the whole game. I hope this will not be the case here anytime soon. So let's see.
Play the army you think is the coolest.
Yeah, I agree. That's
Golden
what I planned
rule.
on, yeah.
Okay, Space Marines. So the poster boys of Warhammer are our first faction today, and I know when I said that the best army to collect all the new players are like, oh god, not the Space Marines, the generic ones. And
Yes. They're not generic, though. They're pretty sick. I love their lore. They've got such a great lore. Very great lore. Like Space Marine lore and Emperor lore and Horus Hersey, and then the chapters after that. That's brilliant. Love it. Love it. But they're too human, I feel, in a way. I don't know how to explain it. The Space Marines are, for me, this human force that show human corruption very closely. And all the other factions show human corruption, but abstractly. You know, like Space Elves. There are no Space Elves. But I could be like, if 40,000 years pass, like humans could be like Space Marines. But they couldn't be like suddenly like bug things. You know, it's like more abstract stuff. So that's why I would not think Space Marines are my favorite faction. They are one of the coolest. They're one of my favorite factions, but not my most favorite faction, because human horror is bad, but I think there are worse things than that. So yeah. And he, of course, I know he loves Space Marines. I know he does. I think people have told me a lot, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. Space Marines are. I would love to read books about them. Like Grimaldus was a great character. You know, Grimaldus from oh God, what was the name? Armageddon. What was the Battle of Armageddon? What was the name of the series I watched? Hell's Reach. Yeah, sorry, I'm very bad with names. You know that. So yeah, Hell's Reach. Like that was brilliant. Loved it. Also loved I think it was the Blood Angels that came. Their philosophy, but it's all very very human. And I think about human morals and stuff, and in every other story as already. So it's not that like yeah. It's cool, but I know that like it's not that intriguing. Not like I don't know, if I take the Drukhari, I think like what the fuck is wrong with you guys? Why are you like that? What happened? And to try to get a grip on what they are. You know, that's more interesting to me than Space Marines, where I know what they are. They are like humans, but to the 11, I guess. You know what I mean? But anyway.
And all the veteran players are going to say, oh God, not more Space Marine players I got to deal with. And the tournament players are already ready to hire a hitman to kill me. But
why?
I'm sorry. I know, why? I agree. Space Marines are, whew, right now. But they really are the best army. If you are a new player,
why?
Space Marines are your best bet. They are the best army to collect if you are a new player. And let me tell you why. Number one, Space Marines got all the lore. They got a monopoly on lore.
Yeah, I see that, but that's not a good argument for me. Just because you've got most lore doesn't mean you have the best lore. So, I mean, the likelihood that I find something in their lore that makes me say, "Wow, this is so cool," is higher. But I guess like most of the lore I read was cool, so or listened to, so.
They easily have the most fleshed out backgrounds of any of the characters or factions in Warhammer. Space Marines have the most books. Space Marines are a huge part of the Horus Heresy. Just
Yeah, of
Space
course.
Marines will always
They are
have
the
the
poster
most, and they
boys.
have the most depth to them. Number 2, Space Marines are very easy to paint, especially for new
okay.
players. When you
Okay.
get Space Marines, you have a ton of variety of chapters, and they all have a ton variety of colors.
Okay, I
And they're
see.
also pretty easy. Space Marines are also very large, or at least larger than normal, so their canvas size is much bigger.
That's cool. I'm sorry to interrupt him here, but yeah, painting this thing, that's probably gonna be so hard. So hard. Like, how do you do that? Like I know me, I'm not that good with painting stuff. Like I'm like when I was in school and we had to do some arts, I was very good with pencil. Like I'm very good with pencil. Like for us, for dumb 16-year-old or whatever. You know, I'm not an artist, but you know, it looked presentable. But the moment you gave me like water, like not what is it called, aquarelle? I don't know what, like color that's like not dry. Like it just was horror, pure horror. And I don't want my things to look like pure horror. So I don't know if I would paint them. How do you go on? Like, would you just paint some other things? Like, would I take my 3D printer and print out some environment stuff and try to paint that, and then to get a grip on that, or how do I do it? How do I paint them? Like, I'm so in awe of the people that paint these things because they look beautiful, they look fantastic, such great stuff, and it's so cool. And this point is very well made, I think, because yeah, like painting this, like would like I would fail so hard on my first figures, I guess. So I don't know. Like I would like that's the problem. Like if you see these cool figures like the Necrons or the Space Marines you just showed us, I'm like, wow, I want that. But can I get that? That's the question. So don't know.
Bigger. Smooth armor, much easier
Yeah.
to paint, especially their vehicles. And the paint schemes are easy. Ultramarines, blue, White Scar, white, Imperial Fist, yellow, Salamanders, green.
Yeah.
It's extremely
That's
easy
so true.
to paint
He's right.
Space Marines. And for a new
Yeah,
player,
I
I
see.
would highly recommend them for
Yeah.
that specific part because the painting and building is a massive part of this hobby. Number 3, Marines are always getting new models. They are always getting equal attention from Games Workshop, even if they have just been updated, they will get updated again and again and again. And
yes, but why is like okay, but like you know how expensive these models are. Like I wouldn't even be able to like what you want one army, I guess. And I don't know. Someone told me there are like points you have to like pay your units with at the beginning of the battle, and then you get to, like you know what you can like put into the battle, and like you have this pool of points, and you can fill it up with your units, and if it's full, and you can battle. So wouldn't you like just need one army? And yeah, okay, the meta shifts and stuff. I guess that's harder if you don't get units that might counter stuff, but I mean, come on! I'm not gonna go to a tournament. Like I will never be good enough for that. I think like just a feeling like it's like I would do this for fun. Perhaps battle someone. Perhaps someday find someone to battle, or buy two and make a friend play that with me. I I don't know. I really don't know, but you know, like, so I don't care for new stuff. Yes, new stuff's cool. Like when I heard that there were new Tyranids in the 10th edition, I was like, yeah, it's gonna be so cool. I want to see them. But that's nothing for me where I would be like, yeah, okay, they don't get updated. Like, okay, so what? If there are cool figures and I see them, I want them. So I don't know.
And the Harlequins and Dark Eldar players are crying in a corner, but we don't care about them because I got a new Primaris Lieutenant and he's got a skull shield. I don't know. They're always getting new models. And
So
while
mean,
it might
though.
be a little excessive at times,
Yeah, it's
they will
mean.
always be updated and your rules will always be changing, and therefore it keeps it very fresh if you're interested in playing them. Number 4, you have a vast amount of data sheets and units at your disposal. See, in a codex, you have a part after all the lore of it, after some of the keywords and art pieces and stuff, you have the data sheet section where it goes over all of your units and what they do and their stats and everything, their special rules and so on.
Yeah, okay. I noticed that too. Like on the 2000 subs live stream, we looked at the shop, and I noticed that the shop, like they had this drop down menu on the side, and there was like other factions, and then there was Necrons below that, and Tyranids, and Tau, and Drukhari, I think. I'm not sure if Elder had their own thing, but I was like, what? And then there were Space Marines on their own. It was okay. You've got many people. You've got diversity there, diversity of death. I see. Yeah, yeah. It's probably better. Like it's more versatile. So yeah.
And when you get to that spot, however many units an army has depends on, well, how many pages of data sheets is it. Take the Adeptus Custodes. They have a very small amount of units, and their standard codex of data sheets is only 11 pages long. Sisters of Battle, however, a little more medium force. They have 19 pages of data sheets. The Imperial Guard, they have a much, much larger amount of data sheets because they're such a large army. They have 39 pages of data sheets.
Yeah, but the Imperial Guard is a lot of things, right? Isn't this the foot soldiers that get like mowed down by the billions? So I guess there are many different soldiers from perhaps even many different planets and stuff. So yeah, of course they have many, but 39 pages. Like the way he showed it was like this, so it was probably 4 entries per page, which makes this like 160 units about. That's a lot. That's a lot, yeah.
Space Marines?
Let's go.
56. 56
Isn't that a bit too
pages of data sheets for different kinds of units. It's a little...
So isn't that a bad thing? Like I would have no fucking clue where to start reading. Like, and then like what he showed, there were like these 2 units in the data sheet, and one was like different by 1 number of 6 or whatever. Like, isn't that a bit overkill? Wouldn't it be easier to get a smaller like faction where you had like 20 units and you knew all of them inside and out, and you probably can like give them a bolter or make them grow some spikes, I don't know, some acid breath, and like tweak some stuff, but I don't know.
Bloated at times because of the amount of characters and stuff, but still, they are all over the place. Their variety is endless, and it is being even more updated and added as time goes on. Which brings me to number 5, and the most important of them all. Space Marines use every phase of the game.
What does that mean?
See, in Warhammer, there are phases in each turn.
What? Command phase, both players? Oh god, I'm so sorry. I'm so bad with my eyes aren't the best. Master strategic resources and use tactical abilities. Okay, I think so. First you use your abilities, your units. What is that? Oh god, I can't read it. Your units, whatever, maneuver. Oh, I think it's maneuver. Is it maneuver? Oh god, I'm so bad. But this is not a very high resolution. So your units maneuver across the battlefield. Your psych, then there's the psychic phase. Your psychers use powerful mental abilities, shooting. So AOE, you move, you psych, you shoot, then you charge. Okay, yeah, okay. So first, okay, so it's like distance, like first mental attack, then shooting attack, then charge attack, and then you fight. And then there's a morale because some people might run away, I guess. So that is actually pretty cool. Oh, I really like that. That sounds cool. That sounds very, very cool. I like that. Very cool stuff.
We're just getting into 9th edition, so we're getting something called the command phase soon, which is fine. But then we have the movement phase, psychic phase, shooting phase, the charge, fight, and then morale phase. Now, the last 3 are kind of all packed into one, if I'm being perfectly honest. But the main thing is that a lot of armies might utilize some of these phases a lot more often than expected. Grey Knights are very big in the psychic phase because they're all psychers, and so they really have a lot there. While Tau don't have any psychers, and they won't even use that phase, but they've got really damn good shooting. However, they don't have any melee, so they're not going to be using the charge phase, whereas, say, Slanesh Demons will use the charge and psychic phase plenty, but they won't be doing any shooting of, like, any kind, pretty much.
The Slanesh Demons like, give me laugh, I want your laugh, I want to eat you. Anyway, aside from that, yeah, I see. Yeah, I see. I see his point. So you might not like savor the whole game. That's a valid point as well. I understand. I understand. Um, that might indeed be a problem, especially if you want to like do everything. I don't know. I would have to play 1 or 2 games to really get a feel for if that is a thing I would want or not, like have all phases or not. That's interesting. I have to look into that, how to do that. Like I might ask someone I know. I don't know if I know anyone who plays this, but like I would have to understand a bit about, like, perhaps I find someone somewhere, I don't know, that will like play a game, or perhaps there's are there perhaps on YouTube videos where people play the game, and it's like a good setup where I can like look at it and I will watch it, record it, and I will then put it on the channel so you can see it and then we can discuss it, because I really would love to see a real game, to decide if this would be a point I would have to consider or not. Because like, yeah, okay, so what? I guess if you're only shooting and every phase takes like 15 minutes, it's pretty boring if you only shoot in a tower. But I don't know, like if it's only like a minute per phase, it won't matter, I guess. I don't know. It's like why I hate the Settlers of Catan. I don't know if that's the English name. Where that's like I'm very bad at that, and we play with very old rules every time we play it, and every time I'm just sitting there and everyone's using resources. I don't have anything. I just wait the whole afternoon. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, you got that, yeah, great, because they don't trade. Great, and then I lose, and like you lose after 2 turns, and it's stupid. So if it's like that, yeah, definitely would probably be better to have more phases, I guess. But yeah. Anyway.
The Marines, they will use every single phase, and you can't get good at the game and get good at the phases unless you're able to use all of them. And that's where Space Marines really shine. You can play them however you want in any kind of role. See, if you are running, let's say, an Iron Hands or Imperial Fist army, these are both shooting-based armies. But you can still have good melee, where if you wanted to play a more melee-based army like Space Wolves or Blood Angels, you'd still have good shooting units. You could still do plenty in the shooting phase.
I don't know. I don't know if that's really something. I know he put up the Tau example. I guess Tyranids are probably a lot close combat, aren't they? And Necrons might also be a good mix in the Eldar. So, don't know.
That's the most important part. Space Marines will use every single phase, and they are very, very good at it. So, that is the main 5 reasons why you should be playing, or at least you should try collecting Space Marines. And I know I don't need more Space Marines in tournaments, but it is the best decision. They're good to...
I don't know how much bias he has here. Like, he clearly is extremely passionate about them. But if I really am honest, only 2 of his points were points I might really consider. Because one of the points is the painting stuff, because like I suck at painting so big like areas to paint. It's better than like painting I don't know, an elder eye, whatever. That's a good point. And the phaser stuff I just don't know. And the rest is just, I don't know.
But to paint, they're good to collect, they're always getting updated, they got tons of units, they use every phase, and you can tailor them however you'd like. Plus, and this is kind of down the line, but eventually after playing them enough, you might understand which army you'd want to collect second. If you start collecting a little bit of Space Marines, you start realizing, oh wow, I really think I'd prefer having more models on the table, or I wish I had tougher models. Then you can go for Tyranids or then Adeptus Custodians. It helps you figure out your second army a lot better. If you're...
I don't know if I would want that. Like, if I have focused on Space Marines, I don't know when I would be like, yeah, let's do the second army. I just don't know. How many of you do have second armies? How many of you do even have one army? Like, or do you just, like, I know many people just are here for the lore, and I understand that. So how many of you even have an army, and how many of you have a second one, or even a third one? Like, and how big are they? Like, and please describe that in measures I understand as a noob, so...
New player, you want to get interested in it, just do this. Go online, get yourself either, or check eBay, because there's tons of offhand Marine stuff on eBay. Get yourself a pack of intercessors or maybe a tactical squad. I'd say intercessors because they're more modern, they're newer and more meta, and they're bigger for better paint canvases. Put them together with some glue, get some paint on them, try them out, and try getting into the game that way. I think it'd be a pretty smart and a pretty solid idea to get someone new into the hobby, and Space Marines just really are one of the better choices right now. Okay.
The one question I have there is, because I remember Macrach, I'm sorry, someone told me how to pronounce it. The Battle of Macrach, I think Macrach. The Battle of Macrach, there was this, I mentioned this before, there was this little pack for that, and I think that was like 12 units per faction, like 12 Tyranid units and 12, like 10 space. No, it was 14 to 10, something. Anyway, it was below 30, like all things combined, I guess, if I remember correctly. It's something like 30. So can you do that as well? Like, can you just say, like, yeah, we do about 12 units per faction, and everyone has their own little units, and you just play around like some corridors or whatever. Like you play you might like play a little strike team and a death wing. So, and there are Tyranids there. Like, you could do that, I guess. Is that the thing people do, or is it always like this big stuff?
Okay, whew. Now that I'm done sucking as much Marine dick as your brain, let's move on to the rest of the armies. And my personal favorite army at the current moment, the Imperial Guard, or the Militare, is fucking the Imperial Guard. The Imperial Guard are my main army. They are what is known as a gunline horde army. Whereas Orcs and Tyranids have a horde army that has shooting, but it's more melee based, the Guard is going to be running 60 to 100 infantrymen, support walkers, artillery batteries, aircraft, drop troops, tanks, bigger tanks.
60 to 100. What is the scale of this? How long does it take? That's the question I just had. So you have like 100 pieces on the board. You're never done, aren't you? I don't know. How does it work? I have no clue. It's so funny. But the tank looks very cool. I really like these, the way this is built here, like little archways from a chapel. Like, you know, the windows from a chapel that looks like windows from a chapel. Very cool designs, of course, as always. So yeah, you've got motherfucking big tanks. So yeah, great.
The Guard is all about just blistering firepower. Now, however, the downside to this is that the Guard, while well-trained, are only 4-up well-trained. They hit on 4s, and they also 50-50. Do not have very good survivability. Guard stuff tends to be rather fragile. They very rarely have any special saves to keep them from taking any damage. Most of their stratagems aren't based around survivability, but in fact more firepower. Guard don't shoot amazing with their 4-up accuracy, but they make up for that with just sheer amounts of numbers of shots.
Okay, so it's accuracy. So it's just like if you roll 4, 5, 6, you shoot and hit, and then you will calculate the damage, I guess. Interesting. Yeah.
I don't care if my tank hits on 4s when I've got fucking 3 of them. If the Marines are like the pristine Swiss Army knife where they can do anything and they have a little tool for every situation, Guard are like a Swiss Army knife that's about 10 times as big and attached to a big wooden stick that you just beat the shit out of people with. Your units are squishy, they don't hit great, but you've got so many of them that you just take people out by drowning them in gunfire. As for collecting the Guard, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Their models are a bit older than I'd like. I personally think that they could use a decent amount of updates. They do get updated plenty rules-wise, but since they've got so many different kinds of units and so many Forge World options, a lot of them are a bit old and are showing their age. As for collecting them in the money side, they're pretty expensive. You're going for a horde army, so you're going to have tons of models on the playing field.
Yeah. And
that being said, I still do love them. I love their lore and their design. I love the large swaths of infantry, and I personally think they are pretty fun, if maybe not the greatest army as a main army. The Adeptus Mechanicus.
Okay, so Guards seem very expensive. They look very cool. Though they look a bit like the Starship Troopers soldiers from the Starship Troopers movie. Very funny. And they seem to be hard to paint as well. So I don't know. Like the tanks looked easier to paint, but yeah. So Adeptus Mechanicus, our good robot god serving people. Let's see how they actually look in their units.
Are the War Cult of Mars. They are
Mars.
very weird, and I've been over how weird they are plenty before, but they are probably one of the wackiest armies in the game, maybe along with Gene Stealer cults.
Ooh,
the Adeptus
cool.
Mechanicus have a lot of really weird back and forth styles when it comes to their gameplay. They're mainly a shooting army. I'd say they're about 75% shooting, 25% melee. However,
what the frick are they? What are you? Why do they look like Discount Illidan with 1,000 augmentations? It's so weird. They look like priests. They look like these very zealous priests. I like it. And they have this symbol. So they have I think this is the Mechanicus symbol, right? And then they have these lightning skull symbols. But yeah, it's very, very like what was the 4-arm dude thing?
However, they do have a couple dedicated melee units that can hurt pretty bad, but they're much lower on the tier list compared to the amount of gunfire they can.
Look at this. Is this real? Did someone paint this on? It looks so small. How do you do it?
Bring. They hit pretty well. They generally hit on 3, sometimes 4s, depending on if they're using mechs or their own current bionics.
What is this?
But they do definitely have some of the wackier stuff. The entire army has a 6 up invulnerability save. So
what is this? Look at it. It's just a dude with 1,000 arms. Like what do you call it? Grafting? Grafted some arms. He's got grafted or whatever his name was. That looks so weird. He looks a bit like Dunkirk from Visions of Escaflowne. Very weird.
So occasionally you get some pretty clutch moments when you start taking damage and you roll a couple dice and you get a couple 6s and you can shrug off like full-on missiles and stuff.
What?
So that is pretty cool. Like one of their base weapons is a really regular kind of crappy carbine, but if you roll a 6 for it, it does double damage, which can actually be ludicrously powerful at times. Then you've got the weird robots, the Castellan robots, that they are these giant like World War I mech dudes that have a refractor field, so if they block off shots with their reflector invulnerable save, it'll launch back damage towards the enemy.
That's so cool. They look like Big Daddies, but a lot more World War I agree. I really like the World War I and II influences on the Imperial side that they're not Space Marine soldiers have. Looks like a scuba diving suit, like one of the old ones. That was so weird. So weird.
Which can be kind of crazy. They're very strange. They definitely are quite strange. Much more shooting over melee, and definitely Titans? Fun. It has some great looking characters. Belisarius Call might be one of the best models in the entire game. Super cool looking too. A bitch to paint though. Oh my god. And that does lead me to the collecting of the AdMech part itself. They're actually getting a lot more newer updates lately. They're actually one of the newest armies as well. They came out only a couple of years ago. All their stuff is in plastic and it looks really damn good. I personally think that they have some of the best aesthetics in the entire game. The only problem is that painting them is going to be a real bitch. I would recommend trying to do some of the simpler stuff, like maybe the Dune Crawler, before you get into things like Call or a Tech Priest Dominus, because wow, is painting that going to be really damn hard. Cost-wise, they are getting a bunch of new units, which is great, but generally when you get new units, they're very...
What the fuck? Look at the detail. Look at the detail. Is this real? Is this photoshopped? What the frick? Look at the detail. Look at the eyes. So cool, but oh, Jesus Christ.
Very expensive, and whenever new stuff comes out, it tends to be a bit expensive. The army isn't a horde, but it's also not an elite army, so they're probably in the mid-ground when it comes to price range. However, I would recommend them to people who like some kind of wacky antics and some weird abilities and weaponry, because AdMech has been getting better and better as time goes on, and they're pretty dang cool to collect. So mid-tier price, maybe a little bit more expensive,
Yeah.
but their sculpts look great and they're very new, and I would highly recommend them. Next
That's
up,
true.
you've got the Adepta Sororitas, or also known as the
Adepta
Sisters of Battle, my
Sororitas.
second
Let's
favorite
go.
army, though I will be honest, they are really coming up to overtaking the Imperial Guard. I love my Guard, I love my Cadians, I love my Tempestus.
Do you want me to do a reaction of Cadia soon? By the way, let me know.
Scions, but the Sisters of Battle,
I love the
they're
Sisters of Battle.
really cool.
Dope designs.
Not only from a lore perspective, they're just insanely religious, zealotous nuns.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
already is just really dang cool. As for the tabletop, they're one of the closest range armies in the entire game that isn't a full-on melee army. They're a slow-moving,
Look
like
at the
advancing
detail. This is
gunline army
so sick.
with some actually horrifying melee units and just some like
Poor sod.
ridiculous close-range firepower.
Is this someone like in an penance chair? I don't know what it's called. Where you repent, like this little box you go in as a Catholic where you repent. Looks a bit like that, and he was like stripped into that and now is forced to like, this is running on his life force, I guess. Jesus Christ. They look badass as well. They look so badass. Look, this one looks really badass. I like it.
The Sisters are probably one of the top 3 hardest armies to play, I'd say. They've got some really weird antics as well, kind of like Admech, maybe not quite as wacky. This army can be played in almost any way as well. You can do this a full gunline army or a full melee army, or 50-50. Everything is viable. They do require a lot of finesse and manipulation because these are
Sanctum et Verum. Sanctuary and Truth. Maturis. Yeah, Matus, I don't know. Domum. Home. Interesting. I'm sorry. I know. I think I'm pretty good in Latin still, but yeah. She looks pretty badass as well with flames. You have to paint flames that look so wow. And the little golden things. I'm so sorry that I sometimes don't even listen to what he like. I listen to what he says, like I hear it, but I'm getting like distracted by the cool figures all the times. But yeah, it's so cool.
They're all low toughness sisters that do have good armor, but when you've got a low toughness like they do, and they're not necessarily the most powerful when it comes to the actual punching, they can actually be shot off pretty quickly. So you need to be really smart on how you maneuver them, because you've got a super short range, kind of squishy army at times. That can be a little bit challenging to get through. That being said, people are sleeping on the power of Sisters. Let me be the first one to say it. You are all sleeping on how strong this army is. This army, if played well by a smart person, will crush you. As for the actual collecting of the models, Sisters are the most recent army, at least as the time of making this video, who have had a complete army overhaul. For a while, there were no plastic sister models whatsoever, but the entire army, besides I think one unit, got a full overhaul of models. Everything is brand spanking new, and they probably have the best looking models in the entire game, in my opinion. They look incredible. That crazy gothic, kind of Catholic nun look. I mean, come on, their tank is a pipe organ missile launcher. It's a pipe organ missile launcher. Sisters are one of the coolest looking armies in the entire game. They are.
Yeah, look at that. Again, the symbols and the detail, and like this Ankh symbol here. And this is, I think, from a English or French king? Lion? No, I think isn't that Richard the Lionheart? I'm not sure. And is there a cherub baby skeleton zombie on top of it? Of course it is.
Are a bit expensive though. That's the one downside, is that because this entire army is brand new, it is brand new with a brand new price tag. So I personally love them. They might soon become my favorite army. I can't quite tell yet. They look great. They're a little expensive to collect. They have lots of different kinds of abilities, both melee and shooting. No psychic phase, but they do have some shenanigans to stop other people from using the psychic phase. They're pretty cool, but they are really hard to play, and they take a lot of practice. So kind of up to you. I would say not a very good starting army, but they are pretty good. All right, Grey Knights.
They sound indeed not like a starting army. That's I agree with. Yeah, they sound like you have to know exactly what you're doing and hope.
Heard you like the Psychic Phase. If you like the Psychic Phase, this is the Psychic Phase for you. Grey Knights are Space Marines
They look
X2.
so cool.
They're super, mega, duper elite Space Marines that are all psychics.
Yeah,
they're nuts.
totally
Grey
very
Knights
tanky.
are insane. They
Very
are
tanky,
very,
probably.
very elite. However, you have probably like maybe 40% fewer models than an average army will have.
Yeah.
All of your dudes, however, are scary in their own right. They all hit very well on 3s minimum. They all have
threes
great armor.
minimum.
Since they're all psychers, they're really good at dealing with other psychers. They also have great shooting and very strong melee. All of your guys have extremely powerful melee weapons. The only downside of Grey Knights is that any anti-psycho shenanigans can really harm them, and you are running an elite army with very few models. When you run very few models, that means every time you're rolling and you roll those ones, it hurts that much more.
I would just
Grey Knights, though, they have
ones.
this awesome kind of old school knight round table aesthetic with them all carrying things like halberds and falchions. They've got holy text.
Oh, look,
they
there's
carry
a chaos
books
spawn
around,
spawning.
flags. But they do get to use every phase as well. Lots of psychic, and then they're shooting and a ton of melee as well. Mainly psychic and melee. In terms of buying them, they're not too bad actually. They're probably one of
is
the
that a real
cheaper
cloth?
armies
No,
as well,
it's not.
because when you're running an elite army, not as
yeah.
many models on the tabletop, so it's a lot easier to fill out your entire army by only purchasing many or fewer boxes than normal.
Yeah.
As for their scopes, I don't know exactly how new they are. I wouldn't call them very new. I call them like middle ground when it comes to how old they are. They're not super old, but they're not necessarily super new either. That being said, if they are, say, medium old or whatever, they do look great. I love the way the plastic
they
models
really
look. I
look
think they look
cool.
fantastic, and I would recommend trying them.
They a bit cliche, not like a bit too knighty perhaps for me, but they look cool, like cool designs. I like that they use the knight swords though. That's cool.
Out if you like a psycho heavy Space Marine thing. You play Space Marines and you're like, wow, I like the Psychic Phase. Grey Knights. No competition. Infantry is for losers. It's big mech boy time. If I'm being honest though, the Imperial Knights, I wouldn't recommend them. I'm just going to come out and say it. I don't think Imperial Knights are a very good army for a new player. They are one of the cheapest armies you can buy because
look at the Titans.
while each knight in its
Look
own
at the
right is very
Titans.
expensive, you only need 3 or 4 to fill out an entire game's worth. And compared that to a full army, they're actually not too bad, like price-wise. The problem with Knights is that, as cool as they are, they want to use the Psychic Phase. They have plenty of shooting, though, plenty of shooting, and they can have some really great melee. But when you're playing Imperial Knights, you're not really playing 40k. A great...
So let me get this straight. You just play the Titans. You just play 3 Titans against whatever the fuck they throw at you. That's a bit silly. That is a bit silly, but I like it. It's stupid.
friend of mine said, if you're playing Imperial Knights, you're playing chess, but you have about 6 queens against a normal enemy chess player. If the enemy chess player is smart, they could easily beat your 6 queens. I'm sure it'll be pretty simple for them to use their full arsenal to beat you.
Like that
but if the enemy
analogy,
chess
but yeah,
player
okay.
is a noob, for instance, then there's a good chance that they're not going to be able to win, and you'll just kind of noob stomp them. And that's what Knights are. Knights are generally
Knights are
noob
noob
stompers,
stompers.
or more like
Correct.
just a middle tier army. They're not good for new players because they don't really teach you the game, and
Yeah,
it's not the way
I
the game
agree.
is
That
really, I
sounds
don't know
like
how to say
that.
it, meant to be played, so to speak. I got nothing against Knight players. If you're a Knight player, it's totally fine. If you run a Knight Valiant, you have nothing but my respect, all right? Get that Knight Valiant, 2-up armor, 4-up invul, Trader's Pyre. Oh, wait, you can't have both.
Yes.
Just have
Yes, I understood all the words you just said. Yeah, that sounds very cool.
Trader's Pyre. The
Don't know
coolest
what
weapon
he's
in the
on
game.
about.
All right, but honestly, just for a new player, I would not recommend Knights. They are cool. They're great painting projects, however. If you just want to paint something,
probably.
definitely pick up a Knight for that. They look great.
So he's got a wolf here, Canis. Yeah, it's a wolf. It's a wolf. Even though it's not the Latin word for wolf, so it's more like a dog. But what did I want to say? I like the wolves. I forgot the faction name. The Grey Wolves. Are they the Grey Wolves? The faction where the Viking faction with the wolf hole. Are they part? Is this particular Titan part of that faction? So could you like take one of the Titans and like use the Titan and use the normal army? Like, could you mix that?
You're not really playing 40k when you play Imperial Knights. You're playing a kind of a weird hybrid of it. If anything, get a normal army like say Imperial Guard or maybe some Space Marines, and then buy one big knight and throw it into your army as an ally.
Yes,
that would be the way to do it, I'd say. I think they're better as a supplementary character
cooler.
as opposed to a main army or force. This is also same for Chaos Knights as well. They do look really cool though. They do look.
They really do look.
Golden
cool.
Boys, Golden Boys. Adeptus Custodians are the elite of the elite. This is probably one of the most elite armies you could possibly play. These guys are nuts. They hit on 2s or higher in shooting and melee. They have triple the health of a normal Space Marine.
Okay, I would definitely just roll ones with them, so.
They have a better armor save than a normal Space Marine. They all have invulnerable refractor fields around them, which most armies do not have. They're tougher than Marines. They get to re-roll 1s in the shooting and melee phase when a certain captain is near them, which means they're hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s. You absolutely murder people in melee. You've got some okay shooting. Your shooting is hit or miss, but your melee is insane, and you use about 20 models. They are literally the definition of Chad Thundercock, okay?
Yeah.
Chad Thundercock, if that was a human being, it would be a custodian, okay? The problem is that you only have 15, 20, 25 models in your entire army. It is absolutely crazy how powerful these guys are, but they do pay the price for it. That being said, when it comes to collecting them, they are one of the cheapest armies you can buy because they're so elite. You don't need as many things to purchase. You don't need as many models to have on the field. So buying custodians is much cheaper than your average army. It's an elite army, and also they're much easier to paint, in my opinion, because they're so big.
Like, it's a falcon, they ride, and they've got the pikes with apparently guns inside the spike somewhere, I guess.
Because they're like 2 feet taller than a Space Marine, lots of a big canvas for your painting, and they're almost all gold. Gold isn't that hard to paint, I wouldn't say. So they're good for painting, they're not very expensive. I would say they're not bad at beginner army, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that sounds a lot better than the Space Marines, I think. The only downside would be the focus on melee, I guess. But so what? Like, you see the other faces, and you don't have to pay that much money, and you learn some stuff. That sounds very cool. Sounds very cool.
Honest, they're pretty cool. They have a nice kind of power fantasy to them. But as an elite army, everyone you roll
you gotta
really hurt. So that's something you should be worried about, or warned about at least. They are pretty neat, though. I'm not going to touch on the Assassins, Sisters of Silence, or Inquisition too much because they're not really an actual army. The Assassins are really damn cool. There's 4 of them, and you get to pick one to add to your army as you see fit. They all have different things they do and specialize in. A sniper, a horde clear, a kind of confusion specialist, and an anti-psyker character. Cool, their scopes are really nice, and since they're only single characters, not too expensive, but you really can't make an army out of them. They're more of a supplementary character. The Sisters of Silence just recently got an update to allow you to field them with custodians, which is awesome and super cool, and is actually kind of a big part of them because the Sisters of Silence are big anti-psyker, but they only have maybe 2 kits, 3 kits in their entire army, and that's about it. They're not really worth collecting in their own right unless you're already collecting custodians. And the Inquisition are a whole bunch of just little characters, basically. A whole bunch of named characters with the cool abilities, which are neat, but not really something that I would try to get a whole bunch of.
Probably
look at all 3 of those things after you're already starting collecting another army. And you're like, hey, I kind of want an assassin. Throw an assassin. Unless you're playing custodians, then check out the Sisters of Silence because the custodian's biggest weakness is psychic, and the sisters do a great job at cutting that down. All right, let's move on to Chaos. So we got the Chaos Demons to start off.
Nurgle, where is Nurgle? Where's Nurgle? This looks like Slanesh a bit. This looks like Nurgle. This looks Nurglish.
Off with Chaos Demons follow one of 4 gods: Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, or Slanesh Big Titty. With Slanesh Big Titty, you're going for melee and fast. You are all melee, you've got no shooting, you got good psychic spells, but you're running in there at Mach 5. Papa Nurgle is slow, but
because he's cooking all the time, cooking. Nurgle's cooking. I hope there's a Nurgle model like this. This is Nurgle, right? Looks a bit like Nurgle. Perhaps it's just a fat face. that is like on Nurgle's side.
Tanky as hell. Zinch, a little bit in between, but tons of psychic
Oh.
spells.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's gone. The image is gone, but they had little manta ray assholes. I like those. They like looked cool. And then we've got the siege. What is that? It's a fish. It's a fish with a very evil eye. We've got some satanic goat people that ride the fish, and okay.
Corn, no psychic. Melee hits like a truck. Pretty much
Corn,
all of the
Sorry.
Chaos
Not
Demon
siege.
factions are glass cannons and very heavy into melee. You got some good psychers for about 3 of the 4, because Corn I don't think has any. So there is still plenty of variety in there, but what you're doing is you got a whole bunch of big glass cannon demons that.
Yeah, this one looks so weird. What is this? It's an eagle, I think, as well. It's like a bird demon, bat demon, other demons. They look sick, but I think they are very hard to paint as well. Like, you have to like paint this, and then you have to paint the little like these parts here. Like these parts, that's so hard, I guess.
Run up and just break your face. That's Chaos Demons in a nutshell. They all have their various traits.
They
Let
look
you
so
fast and hits
cool.
a lot of times.
What is this? What the fuck are you? It looks like it's a Wampa. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a Tauntaun. Looks like a Tauntaun, but on crack and steroids. Tauntaun on steroids. The fuck is this? It's just a mass of ghoul people. Oh, I love it. So cool. It looks so badass, and there are the manta ray things. They're the manta ray assholes. The manta ray assholes are actually bigger than I thought. And yes, we've got the big personality things, big personalities. And what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? I don't know. Just don't know.
Tanky, Zinch is Psyker, Corn hits really hard.
Can
Pretty
you mix
simple in
them?
that sense. But overall, Chaos Demons,
Probably
to
not.
collect them, they're not something you would really collect by themselves.
I want that. I don't know why, but I want this asshole. His smile is the damn smile. What the fuck is it? It's so funny. He looks so dopey and so horrifying at the same time. But yeah, back to the, like, lore-wise, it would probably not make sense for them to team up, so it's a shame. But yeah, it would be cool to, like, use certain positions filled by other god spawns, whatever they're called.
You would ally them in with things like Chaos Space Marines, which we're going to be talking about in just a moment. But as an army in their own right, don't try to make a demon army, I wouldn't say. They don't teach you a ton of the game, and they're a little bit limited because you have to stick with one Chaos faction normally.
Yeah.
If you want to ally in multiple things, you're probably going to need some Chaos Space Marines to go along with it. And with that,
Then you're back
let's
to
talk
Space
about
Marines.
that. Chaos Space Marines, you're kind of getting the butt end of Games Workshop. They don't really seem to
Why?
like you, Chaos, that much. I don't know why.
I know why.
A lot of your
They're
models
cool.
aren't very new, and a lot of them are expensive, and your rules aren't that great most of the time, with the exception of something that happened in
That
7th
looks so
edition with
sick.
Chaos Demons, apparently. I heard it was
Sorry to interrupt him again, but isn't that like the leftovers from word bearers and stuff like that? And Night Lords, and those the leftovers from them? So why would they not care for them? They sound sick.
a very, very strong codex. Chaos Space Marines are very similar to regular Space Marines,
Yeah, they
but they're much more
look
focused
dope.
on melee combat.
Okay.
You still have shooting, and it depends on which faction you're going through as well. But while you do have your shooting units, it is generally more
Oh, they look so
melee-based, I'd
cool.
say. Demons in their own right and Chaos in their own right want to run in there and start breaking face. That's generally their MO. As for Chaos Space Marines, it depends on what Legion you're joining, but overall there are a ton of different ways for you to go ahead and get about completing your objective. The Death Guard and the Thousand Suns, I believe, are the most fleshed out. They both have their own codexes. They both have their own special units, especially Death Guard. Death Guard is very recent, and both of them allow you to field a Primarch, which might be one of the coolest parts
That
about them. You
looks so
can run
cool.
Mortarion or Magnus the Red. Both
Is that Magnus? I thought Magnus was the Primarch that like flew into the Citadel because he had... Or was that Menace? No, I thought it wasn't Magnus the Primarch that had the psychic version and flew into the Emperor's palace and fucked everything up. Did he resurrect as a demon? Interesting. This one looks so sick. This one looks like, oh, this is so cool. And is that a chainsaw scythe? Why not?
Both gigantic, beautiful models that are just awesome showpieces.
Yeah.
They get shot a lot, but once they get into combat, oh man, do they cause problems. As stated before, you should be building what you like, of course. What you enjoy is the most important part of it. But as for Chaos, it's really, you gotta like melee combat, and you gotta like different kinds of allying, probably. I'd say demons aren't, not demons, but Chaos in general isn't a great faction to start off with as a new player, because you need to understand the intricacies of how to do army building and knowing what you're running a little bit more prevalent.
I see.
And so I'd wait on doing anything Chaos related, at least until they get a solid update, or someone teaches you, or you get a little more into the hobby. With the exception of Death Guard. I think Death Guard is in a good place for a new player, because Death Guard is pretty cool. But besides that, they're a little tough. Okay, let's talk about some Xeno, starting off with the Space Elves, the Eldar. So the Eldar are...
Considering that the video's not almost over, but he talked most about the other factions, and I saw that in the shop as well. Like, this is like fits what I saw, and I mentioned that before, that there are not that many models for these, and that's a bit sad. Like, why? Like, why not build up every faction like the Space Marines? I know it's human-centric probably, right? Is that the reason? Just the reason that we want more human-centric stuff? Because all these Xenos factions are very cool as well. I've heard that Tau players can be dicks, but don't know why. I think no one... someone explained it to me, but I forgot. So one person explained it to me, I forgot, but yeah, it's weird.
Are definitely a more glass cannon-y kind of style group. They are the first Xenos we're talking about, and there are a couple of versions. There's also the Drukhari and the Harlequins. However, the Eldar, they are strike hard, strike fast, and get out of there immediately. Yeah. So the thing about Eldars, what would happen is they would fly out of somewhere, immediately gun down with extremely high-powered weaponry, hitting on threes with some kind of BS stratagems, if I'm being honest. Cool, and then they can zip back into cover and really annoy you. Honestly, Eldar probably have some of the more powerful shenanigans when it comes to the game. Cool. They have lots of weird rules. Their stuff hits extremely hard. But of course, once you fire back at them, if you live, they will crumble under a slight breeze. If you play Eldar, you won't be making a bunch of friends, if I'm being honest. I'd say Eldar are top 3 most aggravating enemies to fight against. People don't like fighting Eldar a whole lot.
It's probably because of their hit and run. It's like either you hit them or they run. That might be very annoying. Doesn't sound honorable.
Myself included, I find them to be quite aggravating. But if you're that kind of person who likes zip in, zip out, and be all kind of trickery and sneaky, they're definitely the army for you. They're definitely more shooting and psychic based. That's the 2 main things. They've got some good melee, but mainly shooting and psychic based. As for collecting Craft World Eldar, I'd say that they got some good sculpts. Some of their models look pretty good. They got some nice plastic. A few of it's a little bit older, but you don't need a huge army. So when it comes to the money side of it, not too bad. I'd say the financials for it are pretty dang solid.
Nice.
And I wouldn't call them an expensive army to collect, at least not from my knowledge. The Dark Eldar, or the Drukhari, are like Eldar cranked up to 12. They're faster, they can hit harder at some points, and they have really good melee units. Their melee units can actually be really scary, but they are also...
Yeah, because they enjoy the battle and making people bleed and suffer. And you can only do that from close combat, really. Like if you snap someone and make them suffer, like if you snap someone with a bullet that has a poison or whatever, and you don't see them die, I mean, what's the fun? What's the fun? It's not a good Drukhari way.
Doubly made of paper. They're also a lot harder to play. They're probably top 3 hardest armies to play, along with the Sisters of Battle. And that actually goes on to the Harlequins as well. Harlequins are an army that just don't collect Harlequins, if I'm being honest. They're not a great choice.
Why not?
They have barely any models, and they're really weird, and they have a lot of shenanigans if you want to pull them off. If you're a new player, I would not recommend Harlequins at all. Dark Eldar, Eldar, and Harlequins, speedy, made of paper, hit like absolute trucks,
Yeah.
and not too expensive, I wouldn't say. Drukhari, I think, is a little bit more expensive than the other two, but not too pricey because you don't field a ton of units in your armies.
This is so interesting. This is something it started in my mind when I watched what he said about the Drukhari, about the Elder and now the Drukhari. Is that's so weird? It's so in contrast to what I thought from the lore they were like, and that's this is a point where I really understand or get the feeling that yes, this is a tabletop game and not this is part of the world they created. And perhaps that's too rash to think, but this is like yes, they go in and they perhaps because they are fighting strong foes, but I will always remember the video of the Drukhari we watched. I hope you watched it. You can check it out on the channel. You can check it out in the playlist. Watch the playlist. Subscribe. anyway, what I wanted to say is like this image of the Drukhari coming to a planet and just doing their stuff, and like this horrid vision of death, suffering, destruction, malevolence. I don't get that for a bit from units that just run in and piss off. You know what I mean? But I guess they like it fits a bit with the lore because they have to be careful because they're finite and because of their death problems with the death cycle. So but yeah, I don't know. It's a bit weird. Like not bad, just weird. I get that they have to have some unique rules and it fits in the lore, but I also have a bit of the feeling that yes, in the lore they are scarier because they stay there and savor what they do. Like I don't know. Wouldn't they like? Do they have mechanics like that? Do they have something like if Drukhari go in, have close combat, eviscerate someone, and I don't know, knit a scarf from their intestines? Do they have like one turn where they don't do anything other than like knit the scarf of the intestines? Is that something like that would fit? And then they were vulnerable. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like just hit and run because as far as I understood, the Drukhari is like they savor pain and stuff. So I don't know what scale is the battle like what time scales do you play? Like if you have one battle, like say these here against I don't know Space Marines, same amount of models, and you play with them and you let them fight against each other. What time frame do you play? Like, is it a week of battle or what do you play? So that perhaps is what makes this appear so weird. Perhaps that's the problem. Like if I knew that the hit and run attack would be like 2 days, yeah, then they can have their fun for 2 days. So then it would make sense again. So it's probably that, right? That's probably it. Okay, I see.
Moving on, we got Tyranids.
Tyranids.
Bugs. Yeah, got bugs. You gotta love those bugs. So many bugs. Now, Tyranids obviously are a horde army. It should be very obvious. They are also a melee horde army. Whoa, I know, call the presses. You are mainly spending your time in the melee phase as well as some of the psychic phase. You got a lot of good psychers in the
I love
army,
this thing. There it is again. The Zoanthrope, I think it is called. Zoanthrope. Zoanthrope in Deutsch. So you learned some German now. This I love it. Yeah, this just does the psychic blasts, and they also have the bioartillery. So
you've got some pretty involved and advanced bugs, and your melee phase is as it seems. You have really gigantic, gargantuan creatures that eat everything alive, or you've got 40,000 little boys that eat everything alive. You do actually have some somewhat good shooting too with your Exocrine and your Hive Guard. You can put out some pretty decent shots. That looks so sick. They are definitely the kind of army you run if you want big swaths of just these angry little running bug dudes that just swarm on your enemy. It's literally called the Tyranid Swarm. As for price-wise though, I'd say they're actually very, very expensive to collect. Their scopes are... Some are a little bit older, but not all of them.
Yeah,
they're a little bit in between when it comes to the actual date release for their scopes. I'd say they are a bit older, though they are expensive. They're expensive, and you're running a horde army, so that's definitely one of the top more expensive armies to collect.
I remember this thing.
Tons of bugs, so cool. Tons of models, and older scopes. Can be a little bit of a challenge. Gene Stealer Cults. You want to play bugs, but you want to play human bugs with scrotum heads.
and you can technically get Trezine as a unit because he trolls with them.
Gene Stealer Colts are a very new addition. Very, very new. And they run in this almost as weird as AdMech style army. They're very fast, they hit really hard, and they like dip underground, they crawl from underground, they hit you with very powerful short-range weaponry and super strong melee attack, and then they kind of run away and they like zip, hit and run tactics. That's probably the best way to do it. Hit and run tactics, they come out of the ground, they spook you, they do a bunch of damage, they run away, they got some weird psychic spells here and there, they run these like makeshift Mad Max trucks and stuff. They definitely have a unique play style. They deploy strangely, they like to zip around the place kind of strangely, and they definitely are one of the more unique armies there are. Would I recommend collecting them? No. They kind of fulfill a niche, but they're not that like overarchingly special, I'd say. I don't know what the word is exactly, but they are a very specific play style for a very specific player. If you're running Tyranids, you might consider doing Gene Stealer Colts, but at that point, you already kind of know what you're doing, so I don't think I recommend this to a new player. Gene Stealer Colts and Tyranids both a little bit rough to recommend to a new person because they are very expensive, both of them. And while the models for Gene Stealer Colts are definitely a lot newer and that's much nicer, they need practice. They are definitely a harder army, and I would recommend waiting on those if you're a new player.
Yeah, they are probably like running into a wall if you don't know how to be the swarm intelligence. Like if you're not a good hive mind, your Tyranid ding-dongs will run into a wall.
Orcs!
Yeah.
Orcs. Orcs. Now, orcs. I would say orcs are great if you like the Horde army and you like having RNG dictate your life. So orcs hit on 5s, as I mentioned in my last video. However, if you roll a 6, you get to make another attack with the weapon. Everything from the little pistol to the giant rocket launcher. You can have a rocket launcher that fires 3 times, and if you get lucky enough, you can have it fire 5 times. But the main thing that you're probably going to be jumping with orcs for is the giant green tide, because their melee ability is pretty humongous. They have very weird gunfire. They got their weird weapons and their strange rules, the Daka rules to allow them to get all these extra shots. And they can even have some pretty dang good shooting with things like shock attack guns and Daka jets and stuff.
I think Daka was something they were shouting when during the Infinite and the Divine as well, when they fought them.
If orcs hit on 5s and shooting, they hit on like 3s in melee. Orcs love to beat the hell out of each other. So it's very obvious that once they get into melee, they'll just start pounding on you because they are really good at hitting stuff. In fact, I might be speaking a little bit too hyperbolically when I say RNG controls your life with orcs. Or RNG controls your shooting, but your melee is actually pretty dang good. They've got a special ability called Here We Go, which allows them to re-roll their charge dice, which is a very rare thing and extremely powerful buff. Getting into melee has never been easier if you're an orc. As for collecting orcs, expensive. Probably the most expensive Horde army there is. Probably more expensive than Tyranids or Guard or anything in between. They have sculpts that are sometimes new, sometimes very old. You can have cool new models like Gazgul Thraka, but then you got a whole bunch of really damn old orc models because orcs have been around forever.
Yeah. Is it like, were the orcs together with, it was probably Space Marines, orcs, and Eldari, right? And yeah, I that's what I would think. And they look very... They look orcish, but they also don't look orcish. And that might not make a lot of sense right now for you. But what I mean is like, they look comically rough and unfinished, but not in a way that the design is unfinished, but that they because they are fungi, so it like very like fits, like they just appear humanoid. They just appear humanoid, but they're fungi that are like weird and different and alien, and I love that. Like very, very, very nicely suits them. The design.
Their codex in their own right is pretty neat, and there's some pretty good models in there. But orcs they're showing their age, and you need a shitload of them. And they are very expensive for that reason. So they're expensive to collect, and you need a ton to collect a good-sized army. But playing them,
why is there a little fuckface on his back? Why? Is that one of those gnome things.
Like Melee
Whatever
with
they're
some
called.
really fun shenanigans and a bit of
Looks so
RNG. I can see why someone would like orcs, because they're orcs. Come on, they're great. Let's talk Necrons. So the Necrons, if I had to pick a Xenos army, I'd play Necrons, honestly. Necrons, I mean, they're just so cool. Undead, Egyptian, skeleton robots that carry enslaved gods into battle. How is that the coolest thing ever? So Necrons are fittingly named all about necromancy, but not like the undead homina necromancy, but like necromancy through metal. So the way Necrons are is that they are kind of a slow moving, at least some of their units slow moving, gun line with some mixed in melee units. Not all their army is melee, but their melee units that they have are actually like really scary. But for
those things, I love them. I don't know what they're called. Arches? I know that they had them in the final battle in Infinite and Divine. They look so cool, these weird ship things. And oh, it's got a lot of guns.
For a while, Necrons are kind of slow-moving Terminator-style guys. They just blast you away at a distance with some very powerful weaponry. They kind of have Space Marine stat lines, actually. They run about as many models as Space Marines. They got similar stat lines and similar weaponry. I'd say that they're actually quite similar to Space Marines in the terms of how they play. But they actually do have a lot of weird shenanigans that make Necrons their own. For instance, the main thing that you might want to pick Necrons for is
No, I'm so sorry. They're called Stith guards, some guards. I know they are these things that Trazyn woke up and everyone was pissed because they were very valuable.
Reanimation protocol.
Yeah, they can reform,
special ability that, let's say you got 10 units of your base Necron warriors, for instance. You got 10 Necron warriors, your basic troop choice. Your opponent kills like 7. Kills 7 of them, you got 3 of them left. Their turn ends, your turn starts. You then roll a dice for every dead model. So 7 models, 7 dice. And for every 5 or higher, you automatically get one of your models to just stand right back up. Your Necron just goes like... Your vehicles regenerate health as time goes on. You have special abilities to maybe make your Necrons come back on a 4-up instead of a 5. You can re-roll your 1s for it. It's all about getting your units to come back up and being like, if you're fighting Necrons...
So if you had a model of Trazyn or Oricon... Not Trazyn, it's just Trazyn. Would Trazyn be able to infinitely reform at the edge of the battlefield? That would be so stupidly overpowered.
You better kill it, because if you leave it wounded, it's going to repair itself, and that's not a very good thing. That's the idea of Necrons. They got good shooting.
Oh, is that Oricon? I think that's Oricon. Oh, it's so cool. I like that he has the scorpion form thing. And his weird stuff.
A good melee, and honestly, now is a good time to be a Necron player. They are getting a massive update.
What is that? I have not seen this one. It looks very weird. I like it, but it looks weird. Do we have... Oh, this is a Satan shot, I think, isn't it? Is that a Satan shot?
Right now. It's just right before 9th when this video is coming out, and they are getting huge new model ranges, a ton of just new units in general, massive updates, rule updates. Necrons are getting big additions, and I think it's going to be super great. Now is a good time to be a Necron player. The new stuff might be a little expensive to collect because it is new stuff. That being said, they're not an elite army, but I guess they can't be played elite.
Yeah, this might be Oricon.
They don't have a few models, they don't have too many models, they're nice in between, and now is a damn good time for it.
How do you get, how do you get this metallic look? It looks sick.
But not least, we have the Tau Empire. The Tau Empire is for people who want to gun their opponent down with the most sci-fi, hardcore Gundam giant mech stuff you can think of. You want to have your entire enemy obliterated off the board through just the unrelenting volley of railgun shots and rail rifles and fusion blasters.
They look easy to paint though, I think. Like, not easy, but easier.
You will look up and you will see missiles, giant homing missiles, blot out the sky as it rains down on your army because the Tau player's got 40,000 missile pods on all of his characters. He's got flying drones to fire laser sights to mark them, to have better accuracy, to block shots. And, your big...
What are they called? Those are drones, all of them, right? They're not in the suits. They control them from the distance.
Battle suit will be rolling up, and then a drone will come in and block a missile from it. The Tau are definitely more of an Eastern-inspired, definitely a Gundam kind of look to them. And they are just ludicrously powerful in shooting phase. And they also have tons of special abilities to stop your opponent from getting to you in the charge phase. The Tau has no melee. Their melee is straight garbage. When Tau infantry start punching, it means they've lost. And you might think to yourself, wow, Bricky, this sounds great and aggravating. Yep, that's about right. The Tau get a lot of shit. Some of it warranted, some of it not so warranted. The models in their own right definitely don't fit very well with 40K. They're much more of a sci-fi Gundam style thing compared to...
I wouldn't say so, no. I think you said that before, and I still disagree. I think they fit perfectly. Because they're young and clean, and they've made mistakes already as far as I know, but they don't know it yet. They don't know it yet. They're still this clean, outwardly clean faction, so I really like this look. Really like the look of the Tau.
To a gothic, grim, dark sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah, but
however, I do think they do look pretty cool in their own right. It's just kind of weird in this universe.
No,
but when you've got an entire army whose whole job is to blast you away from incredible ranges across the map, and every time you even try to retaliate, they either gun you down when you try to charge, or they block your shots with drones. It can be pretty aggravating.
Yes.
That being said, there are really cool new ways to play Tau, like close-range attacks with Cold Star battle suits in the Farside Enclaves, which, by the way, if you ever use a Cold Star battle suit, or a Cold Star commander, I suppose, or a Yavara, you have my respect. So you do have different options when it comes to Tau instead of just sit back and fire. But you definitely don't got much melee. You definitely don't got much melee. You suck at melee. But if you just want to gun people down and the only phase you care about is the shooting phase, you don't care about psyche, you don't care about melee, you just want to blast people, Tau is definitely for you. As it comes for collecting them, their scopes are pretty good. They're not entirely super new, but they do look great. They have a whole bunch of different kinds of mechs, big and small. They got drones, big and small. They got infantry units and everything. They do look solid, high-tech, and their scopes do look nice. They're also, I'd say, not too expensive. You don't need a ton of them, and the battle suits themselves are expensive for each box, but you only need so many of them.
How big are they?
Because they are very expensive when it comes to the points cost in the game. So Tau are on the middle level of the expensive tier. Whew, that was a lot of talking right there.
Yeah, that was a lot, but thanks, mate. As always, thank you. I hope he does new videos as well about 40K. Like this seems to be really his thing. Like the lore stuff, yes, he was sometimes a bit on the surface, and others did do stuff with more information, more in-depth information, more cinematic retellings of stuff, and yeah, but I really liked his videos. And he seems to be a very cool dude. Like, he would be someone I would love to have a drink with, you know. But, yeah, so great stuff. Thanks already for doing this, Bricky. And, yeah, that was a cool video.
It covers it though. That is every army in 40K for you trying to figure out which army you want to play. I will reiterate, Space Marines, they are the best. I know it kind of sucks for some of us, but trust me, they are the best. I would highly recommend if you're trying to get into it, get a box of Intercessors, check out the rules, paint them up maybe. 9th edition is coming very, very soon. It looks extremely promising, and I think now is probably the best time to be jumping into this hobby. I want more people to be a part of this community, to be a part of this fandom. I think it is exciting.
That's what I get from him all the time.
And I don't want anyone at all to not feel welcomed, not on any basis. Not on basis of age, sex, gender, race. I don't give a shit.
What is that in the background?
I don't care who you are. I want you to at least give it a shot and be a part of this group with me, because I would always love new people. And honestly, there's no reason why you shouldn't have a good time along with the rest of us. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. It was a pleasure having you here. Check out Displate in the description, please. They are the wonderful sponsor for today's video. And
yeah, I guess that was it. Yeah. I still don't know. I think the question for me would be, do I want to play the game? or do I just want to collect stuff? Because if I would just collect stuff, and I'm probably first just gonna collect stuff if I plan on doing that this year still to get some of the figures. And I will probably not buy them with the intent of playing them because I can't. Like, I don't have people here around who do that. And yeah, so, you know, I will probably go for lore and looks and not for mechanics. That said, it was very cool to learn about all the factions, and now the Games Workshop page makes more sense to me why there are like this and this and this many units and stuff. Yeah, this was very cool. And I, as I was saying during the video, the way the figures are presented, the way they painted them, and it's so awesome. Like, such cool stuff, and I'm in awe at how great they do these, like how good they look. And yeah, I would love to see some in reality. And like apart from mine, I will have to look at if there is somewhere a convention here in Germany or something, like where you could go and look at stuff and have some fun there. Like, because I like these kinds of conventions. Like, I was at the Animagic in Germany several times. I plan on going this year. Didn't manage it, but I will probably go there again. I love this kind of stuff. So many cool people as well. I've met some cool people on conventions. So, yeah, if there is something here that might be perhaps cool to go to one day, I feel that I would have a lot of fun there. Yeah, still don't know whom I want to play, but I've got some more insights into the models and stuff, and I know a bit more about how they do it. Though, as I said, if you know about a video or about a channel or someone who does like battles and like perhaps perhaps they film the battle, or perhaps they do recaps of the battle they fought with friends or whatever, something like that. If you know about something like that, please let me know. I would love to look at that. Also, I'm planning on doing, I don't know what I should do next, like Last Church, Pilgrimage to Terra, or something about Cadia. I think that would be cool. And let me know what you think about that. And with that, we're through. I watched the whole thing because it was very captivating. I loved it. And oh yeah, or perhaps some sci-fi stuff where, you know, because of my background as a physicist and stuff, perhaps I can give you some sci-fi, like perhaps someone analyzing that in physics regards, like what is possible. Because I think a lot of this is not that out there. Not as far out there as you would think, I think. Some of the stuff, some not. So, yeah, enough rambling of mine, but that's what you're here for, though. I hope you have a very, very great day. And if you did like this, again, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps a bit grow the channel. And take care of yourself. Have a great day. And see you soon. Bye.